Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time and tuning in to today's Facebook Live. Really excited about today's guest. With our continued promise to bring great resources forward during these times, we're thrilled to invite Lauren Teevan, financial planner of RBC, on today. Lauren's primary objective is to help to achieve people's financial goals. Lauren, welcome and thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule to come on today.
Real pleasure here to speak on Straight Talk and to be live with you today.
Yeah,
Great.
no, this is great. This is great. I'm really excited about this topic because I don't know too much about it, and I'm really excited to learn from you and share some resources to some of our followers. So thank you again.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
As
Let-
it says, I am a financial planner. And so that being said, I do handle sort of both sides of the coin. It's sort of people's needs for investments as well as credit. But I think there's also the approach too that we, go with what's most important to clients in terms of figuring out their goals. It's a little bit more than money.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's in order because money does make the world go round, but it's people shouldn't think like that. It's about achieving your life goals and really feeling like you've accomplished what you've set out to achieve.
Yeah. So let's tell us a bit about yourself and what you do at RBC and what exactly is a financial planner. I'm sorry, there's many parts to that question.
No problem. No problem. Well, I have been a licensed financial planner with RBC for about 13 years. I'm actually from London. It's nice to be home again, but I started this role in Toronto out in the beaches. Prior to that, I've had roles such as branch manager. I've been in human resources. So I understand sort of all aspects of the branch, but really enjoy being a financial planner because I think the difference is that we really get to work one-on-one in terms to having a collaborative approach with clients, fully understanding what the needs are, getting to know clients, and truly finding out what matters to the client most, what matters to you most, and helping you achieve those goals.
Very good, very good. Now, how does one make the decision that they need a financial planner, and how does one go about finding someone like yourself?
You know what? All you have to do is ask. A lot of people have this sort of idea that you need to have a lot of money to deal with a financial planner. That's not always the case. You just need to want one. Sometimes you just want someone to help you with budgeting. What about the things above and beyond just saving money? For example, like I need some help finding a good lawyer. I need some estate planning advice. I might need to figure out, you know, what if I need a will or a power of attorney? How do I go about doing that? Literally, you just need to ask. Now, the difference is banks haven't been typically great at this. They come in and you automatically say, I'd like to see someone, and they don't always put you in touch with a financial planner. So
Right.
I do recommend that you specify that you want to speak with one because there is a lot sort of more advice above and beyond just typical investments. And it can be in regards to estate planning. Even if you need some help on your tax advice, it's tax time. We've been extended to June 1st to do our taxes. What if you need
Yeah.
some advice there? Estate planning, insurance. What about finding a good mortgage specialist to get some advice about getting a pre-approval for a house?
So you're basically like the jack of all trades in the branch.
Yeah, essentially, we have to have that knowledge. We don't give
Yeah,
the specific, like I can't do
yeah,
your tax return, I can't set
yeah.
up your will, but I can certainly discuss that overall picture to make the recommendations.
Oh, that's great. Now, your clients that you have or people that are looking for a financial planner, are you able to assist them during this whole COVID pandemic?
Yes, we are actually working from home. We are, as many Canadians that are out there dealing with the same situation. We are actually working tirelessly to try and keep up with technology. That is sort of the bane of our existence. Things that were sort of put on the back burner have now made the forefront of most importance for making sure we're able to stay in contact with people. So yes, definitely. The unfortunate part is I can't reach everybody, but we can
Yeah.
reach the clients that are already existing with RBC Royal Bank or someone who reaches out to us.
Right.
I will say though that unfortunately, they say perfection is the enemy of good in a crisis, and things are not perfect right now. I'll put it out there. We've had clunky things happen where I've dropped a call by accident,
Right.
or my dog starts barking while I'm trying
Yeah.
to do the financial planning. But
Yeah.
luckily, people are understanding of that, which is
Yeah.
really good. The advice we're sort of getting, from working from home and doing this with clients and dealing with their money is that, we're to focus less on worrying about doing things right now and just doing the right thing. So,
Yeah.
I want to say that we're trying to reach out, but if we don't, please reach out to us because we'll make sure. I'd rather let people know that the bank is available and that I'm available to help, direct people because people are worried about their money right now for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you're very busy and getting lots of calls and, plans that you probably made with people at the beginning of the year have probably very much changed now moving forward. Have you seen a big change?
You know what? We're trying to advise. Yes, there's definitely been stress. I mean, markets have been all over the place, but not a big change because this is not the time to be dropping your plan.
Yeah.
Making huge life decisions should not come about because we're in the middle of a crisis. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
It's a great piece of advice.
yeah, you need to stick to that. It's more about dealing with our emotions. I mean, that's the one thing is our emotions about how we
Yeah.
feel about what's going on in life. And, money is directly correlated to that. So we have to, try and take a step back, breathe, and realize that we are going to get through this and things are going to start to recover. We've already starting to see little signs of that for sure.
Yes, yes, which we're going to talk about in a bit. I'm excited
Yeah.
about your predictions there. Now, are the branches open right now? I know a lot of things have closed. So are RBC branches open and can they
Uh,
conduct business?
Yeah, we are an essential service, so we are open, but we have been on reduced hours, and the people can only do sort of limited banking at the current time. As governments around the world sort of see progress in the slowing of COVID-19, then there's going to be some some easing of those regional restrictions for sure. And as a result, we're continuing to develop the plans about returning people to the RBC premises. But we're just hearing, like, I just want to emphasize that RBC's approach for sure is going to be really gradual. Health and safety remains most important for our clients as well as the staff. And even though markets are reopening and there's other businesses that are going to be moving more swiftly, RBC's decided that they are taking their time, and that does not mean that RBC will rush to do anything. So as far as a date for returning to opening hours as per normal, that hasn't been set yet. We basically are going to follow federal regulations and health authorities' recommendations. But on top of it, RBC is still going to make sure, they might even have to plan for the banks about how they're going to structure office looks,
Yeah,
to make sure that, sitting across the desk has the proper measurements. There's going to be lots of things still to consider, and they'll be doing it in stages, with small bits, monitoring, and really, really gradual return to work. So that's a really long answer to that question.
oh, it's great. It's great.
But if you do need emergency situations, like you had to get into the safety deposit box, you had to wire money or something, it is sort of in a stand-in lineup, reduced hours, sort of between 10 and 2.
Yeah. It's kind of like the new normal right now. Going to the grocery store or anywhere. It's
Yeah.
standing in line. It's the new normal.
That's right. Our
Yeah.
patience level is definitely being tested, right?
Yes. No. Yeah. That is definitely the truth. That's definitely the truth.
Yeah.
Now, I'm excited about this question. Can you comment on the economic outlook right now? What are
Oh,
your predictions? What are you telling people? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know. Oh my gosh, and how it relates to stocks, bonds, investments. I mean,
Yes.
I think what we should focus on today, definitely, I could go on about this for quite a while, James. But I think let's take a look at the economic outlook now in relations to sort of housing market and maybe like exploring the initial signs of recovery that we're getting
Yeah.
now. It'll be like the narrative sort of surrounding COVID-19 at this point is sort of continuing to shift towards that reopening of the economies. And Yeah, so as far as markets, important to monitor the regions that sort of have begun to unwind their quarantines. We're hearing the news that slowly things are going to be reopening. And I think that causes a lot of concern and anxiety. So I guess what I can do is give an indication in regards to what the recovery might look like. I mean, take China, for example. It remains to be the country to watch, I guess, because it was the first to encounter the virus, the first to deploy the unprecedented quarantine. It was first to manage their economic recovery as well. I think the other countries like Europe, the States, and Canada will now have to deploy their own exit strategies. And a key question will be to the extent of how much has China succeeded and how much of an example it can give to the rest of the reviving the rest of the economies. But there is some good news, in regards to watching this. They're actually saying that China has rebounded substantially. It's not all the way back. However, it is also, they had a drop of negative 26% that has now recovered to only negative 1% as of the end of March. So that must mean that April's been better. So
Yeah.
that's a good news situation. And, they're saying too that when people are getting back to work in China, they've noticed that consumers have not felt that urge to overspend and re-spend on items that weren't purchased during quarantine, so to speak. It's not like people are feeling denied and overspending. So people are still saving money. People are still being able to buy houses, and the market is good that way in terms of real estate. And also they're finding that they're just employing there are new norms, where workers are now being tested and their fevers being taken and what have you as they return to work. I think the one thing is restaurants and things are sparsely attended. There's, that's a new norm. There's disposable cups and cutleries, and that's a whole situation. So that is definitely not returned to normal. They were saying in Beijing, only 50% of people are going back to restaurants. So that's
interesting. That's a very interesting sentiment.
Yeah. And on a good size, car sales are up. They're rebounding nicely in certain areas. And Beijing saying that the subways are up in 65% of capacity. So in short, China has managed this substantial rebound. And even though it's incomplete at this point, it's showing that life is not fully back to normal, but that if we take gradual, slow steps, we will be able to make it back. And I think what happens is the stock market is then indicative of that, because that's why you're seeing the markets returning back, because the market tends to jump ahead of what society is actually really doing. And now in terms of Europe and the United States, they're saying, Netherlands, Germany have been able to start a slow return to work. As far as the U.S., there was also data showing that such states like South Carolina and Georgia were already managing recoveries before even the social distancing rules were officially lifted. So that's good. Bad side, New York, not so much, but there are some states that are doing okay. And, I guess as we look at our recovery checklist, like the worst of the market happened sort of March 23rd. They're thinking the market high was April 29th, and things have almost recovered back to normal. The question is that I'm sort of not convinced about is it over? Because potentially, does that mean a recession only lasted? Because we're definitely in a recession. I mean, we're at 15% unemployment rate, but does this really mean that the recession was only an event-triggered recession? Or will it be a structural recession? Could there be more dips to come?
Well, I think that's a great comment because, unlike 2008, 2009, like we didn't go into this as a financial crisis. So it's interesting from that standpoint to look at. I'm happy you brought that up.
Yeah. And, and then the recovery on that, so there is good news. There's more good news out there than bad news, put it that way. The news flow that's happening is driving markets higher. Things are feeling a little more confident, even though, because people are confident that, authorities are going to do the gradual return as requested. In terms of the recession, I guess, there is low interest rates. It's a great time. There's lots of government stimulus going into the market. Bond yields are down. That almost sort of means it's relative that there's good value in finding equities and to diversifying your portfolio and buying property.
Yeah.
That's why we're seeing that people are still, even though housing is down, it's not terrible like what you were comparing to
Yeah.
in 2008.
Yeah.
And we're hoping
Yeah.
that there'll be sort of a U-shaped recovery.
No, I want to have you on every week because
Oh.
I love your positive news. Oh, it's
Well,
great.
you
It's great.
gotta see the good part for sure.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. Now, do you find the banks are still lending the way they were before? Have they tightened up? What's your comments on that?
No, they're still lending. We were actually just on a call that's saying, to our mortgage specialists, with the CERB that's happening with
Yeah.
the government, we are participating in those business loans as well, deferring mortgage payments. We have decreased our interest rates that people are paying on their credit cards. We are
Yeah.
definitely full on in to cooperate and lending. Believe it or not, numbers are actually up about 20%.
Really
Mm,
interesting. That's
mhm.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's well, like I say, every week you're coming on with this great news.
Yeah,
Uh,
don't give up on applying for
yeah,
that loan or trying to
yeah.
get the mortgage pre-approval. Do it for
No,
sure.
that's good. That's good. So earlier you mentioned that you partner with all areas of the bank. How exactly does that work? You take me through that.
Yeah, I guess in regard to, really understanding what a client needs and what their goals are, I have to listen to you and find out what matters most. And as I was mentioning with someone who says they just need a piece of tax advice and they want to figure out, about insurance or more detail about what it's like to be an executor on a will, for example, or a power of attorney. Understanding all of that, I have to be sort of a quarterback to the rest of the areas in the bank. Royal Bank is sort of, like say, it's kind of this North Star you can come to get a one-stop shop, which I do really like because, it's sort of my idea as a quarterback, I guess, to potentially say, hey, I can introduce you to a great mortgage specialist who can help you. Or, like I said, being able to participate today. I know James McGuire. He can help you. He's a great real estate agent. Even though you're not officially part of Royal Bank, there are areas of Royal Bank that, for example, clients may not even know existed. For example, there is estates and trust planning. There is actually a legal section where I can answer some of your, get some of the questions to redirect you to what type of lawyer you might need to get, or getting some tax questions answered, or what about having some financial planning tips. So there's Dominion Securities, private banking, all kinds of aspects there. And I sort of take the ownership that you still can come to me, and in terms of meeting the team. Right back to going to the branch. Let's say you want to get some US money for your trip to the States when we can travel again. If I can get you a little bit of a better rate and put that money aside for you so you don't have to come in and request the bills, it's kind of like you have that specialty service ahead of time.
That's great. That's the one thing I've always liked dealing with RBC is a very customer oriented. Um, you treat everyone very fairly, which is good. We always like sending clients to RBC, so it's
Well,
good.
people just want to. I think that's where the banks have gone wrong in the past. Every time, it's kind of like you have your lawyer, you have your dentist, you have your
Yeah,
doctor. But, when they say, gosh, there's my banker, you just get into the bank, you get comfortable with someone sometimes, and then
yeah,
boom, they're moving on, they're promoted, they're
yeah,
not there. And every time you go in the bank, you feel like you have to re explain yourself again. And let me tell
yeah,
you about how great a client I've been. I've been a client for 15 years. Like, it's
yeah,
exhausting. So, really, I think the pinpoint is to find that one person who's not going anywhere, kind of knows
yeah,
you and can speak on your behalf, so you don't have to go through all those circles over and over and over
yeah,
again as a client.
yeah. Well, that's good. So I've got a couple more questions for you. So from an investment perspective, what sort of investment advice are you giving clients right now?
Well, definitely our experiences during COVID-19 will likely be shared in the future generations for years to come. That's
Yes,
what
yeah,
I'm going to say. Um, while I'm certain these stories will be shared in person for sure, and not over Zoom or social media, obviously specifics still need to be ironed out. Um, the uncertainty and the volatility right now, the past couple months has definitely been unsettling for many. I and my family is no exception. Several of my family members have actually been seeking my advice on how best to ride out the storm. And everybody's at a different stage of life and they have unique investment needs. There's distinct risk tolerance and time horizon differences. They're all feeling the pain of the market, though. That's what we all have in common, and there's a lot of concern and anxiety. And so they want to know what's happening. Why is it happening? When will this end? Should I be doing something right now? People are just saying, gosh, should I just get out of these investments? And I guess I was saying, this is not the time to be abandoning your plan. My advice would be at this point to be aware of your emotions. Use time to your advantage. I'd say in terms of measuring risk that you want to take for things, it's a lot easier to almost say, hey, I can sort of turn a blind eye on my retirement plan a little bit because when the market does recover, even if it takes a few years, I've still got 10 to 15 years until I retire, versus something that's like, hey, I really want to save for my first house. You wouldn't be gambling and investing long term if you're going to use those funds to put as a down payment. That's something that should be kept more secure. So I guess where I'm going with that is use time to your advantage in terms of how you're structuring your risk for what your actual goals are. Maintain that discipline. So stick to the plan. Regularly rebalance. So you know what, you might say, even though you want to throw the towel in at this point, don't. Keep with it. But you know what, when we do make it through, and we will make it through, that's when we reassess and go, you know what, I can't go through that again. Once you've recovered everything and you're in a good state, that might be the time to secure things a little bit so you can feel like you're in a safer investment for the future. That would be the time to rebalance. But that's where you stay in touch with your advisor and your financial planner. Diversify your portfolio, too. Have buy property, whether, I was saying you can, whether it's your first house, you're buying investment property, definitely having different investments. And lastly, I would say invest on a regular basis, continue to do it. It's proven that it smooths out the overall performance over time. So, and also if you don't have a whole lot of money, don't decide on the entire lump sum. Just decide, hey, I'll just start $25 a month. I'll just, something that just makes you feel like you're putting something aside for yourself and doing something right. Small amounts are easier too, just to part with, because you feel like you don't notice it. That's like how many, what's $25? It's like how many Starbucks coffee in a month, right?
Yeah. No, it's, and I think the big takeaway here is, you said in the beginning, you don't need a massive amount of money to come see you. Which I think is a very important part. Start with something small.
And just wanting to start that saving, wanting to plan for your future, and feeling confident about what you're doing with your life and how your money's going to make your goals happen. It's really important. So there's no set amount of money that you have to deal with a planner at all. So
Well, that's great. Now, the last question I'm going to end with is, what if someone wants to buy a house? How would you recommend saving? How would you recommend a client saving for their first home?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for that. And this is where I think tax planning comes into play with the savings. There's a lot of benefits on that Canada.ca website. Revenue Canada does help in regards to saving two ways, especially because people always say, well, I'm saving for my retirement, I'm putting some money away. There's a key benefit to saving money from a tax standpoint for your first house. And I bring this up with how it relates to the government because any money you put aside into your RRSP, up to $35,000, and you've received refunds on all of that and it's accumulated, it's all allowed to be withdrawn tax-free when you buy your first house. So not everybody knows that. So essentially that's a huge benefit to Canadians because essentially you can save by putting money into your RSPs. That helps you with a tax refund when you're doing your income tax, and then accumulating all that amount to then be able to put more down on your first house. It makes a huge difference. The government, all they decide and mandate, for example, is that you just pay yourself back, and you've got 15 years to do that. But I mean, it's not a big deal. I was saying, if I take out my calculator here, you're allowed $35,000. So let's say you had 35,000, you have to pay it back over 15 years. So that means you've got to pay back into your RSP $2,333 a year. Again, break
Yeah.
it down into small
Yeah.
amounts because you want to figure out am I really going to come up with that at the end of the year? I don't know. So let's break it down monthly. Well, then monthly, gosh, you only have to pay yourself back $195. So call it 200 and you pay it back
Yeah.
in 14 and a half years.
Yeah.
But and it can be paid off at any time because obviously you're just putting it back into your RSP.
Yeah.
The government allows it that it doesn't affect your RSP deduction limit at all. Like, it's a no-brainer, definitely, to put money, because typically, it's not always recommended to have lots of money in RSPs, but this is a definite time where you'd want to do that. I also want to mention at this time too, you did ask about first house, but let's just say anyone's just saving too. There's lots of other tax incentives by Revenue Canada, even if you're, say, buying an investment property, if you're borrowing to invest too. So definitely come talk to me about that, because there's all kinds of ways that we can save you money as well as making you money. So it's pretty cool.
Two great things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share your information on this this video after. Is it okay if people give you a call if they need any help? How does that work?
Absolutely. Sure.
Perfect.
You
No,
bet.
that's great. That's great. I've
Love-
really enjoyed today's session. It's been great. You've brought a lot of great information that I wasn't aware of, and I'm sure the people watching, same thing.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So thank you, and I hope we get to do this again. You bring some great information. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
thank you,
see if
everyone.
anyone has any questions. I see there's some people watching. If you have a question, we'll wait here for a moment for you. And if not, you can send one in after, and we'll make sure we get an answer for you.
Okay.
You're going to enjoy that sunshine out there today?
I hope so.
Yeah.
It definitely is going to make it part of your practice. Yeah, I'll be walking the dog for sure.
I love it. I love it. Well, it doesn't
Nice.
look like we have any questions. So
Okay.
it's thank you again, and look forward to doing this with you again.
You bet. No problem.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
James.
so much. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.